Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe with Streamline Capital. Very happy for today's show. Introduce our guest today. We got Jazmin Salinas from Massive Capital. So, Jazmin, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Brian. Honored to be with you today. It's going to be so much fun. So I'm super excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Very much appreciate it. So, I've been following Massive for quite a while. I know, one of your colleagues is a good friend of mine, and so I'm super excited for this. So, let's start talking about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and what got you into multifamily.
Yeah, that's a long story. I'll try to be brief. But long story short, I moved 11 years ago to the States and pretty much I had to start from scratch. I
Hmm.
had to reinvent myself and start from zero, so start working all kind of jobs and saving money. I always pursue the entrepreneur world, so never wanted to go to corporate America. I wanted to start a business, but I didn't know what kind of business to start. So I was just saving money. I remember my dad told me once, whatever business you're gonna start, you need capital. So save money. So that's
Yeah.
how I started saving money. And then at one point, I had $45,000 in my bank account. And I'm like, this is enough to start a business. Back then I was in college, but I didn't know what kind of business to start. I was getting my degree in business administration and entrepreneurship. So it was like very broad. I felt like I didn't have a skill set. So fast forward, I decided to buy a piece of real estate. I'm like, while I figure something out, the best place to put my money is in real estate.
Yeah.
So bought a piece of land, my first piece of land, small for new construction for a single family. And that's how I started by accident, in real estate. A little bit after that, I got the opportunity to do sales for a real estate investment firm. So
Mhm.
that's where I started learning about analyzing properties, how investors think. And I found out I didn't get such a good deal on that lot, so I sold it.
Yeah, I think more important than how you do on your first deal, this is my opinion and may not apply to everybody, but for most people, it gets you in the game, And my first deal did okay, I bought it right before the crash in 2008 and, it just did okay. My second deal did terrible, but what really mattered to me is it started me in the game and it got me going and I got across that fear of, writing those big checks and taking the risk. But
Exactly. That
yeah.
no, you nailed it. I think if we never start,
Mhm.
we're never gonna do it. And back then, I was so new. I had no clue. And I'm glad I did it because otherwise I would be probably overanalyzing. I just rely on a broker who was just a broker but wasn't an investor. That's the first lesson. Like you have to do your due diligence. Just because somebody has a degree or is a broker doesn't mean they understand investments. But yeah, just like you say, that's what helped me get my first deal and gave me the momentum to do it over and over again.
Yeah, and it really it's a momentum game too. I mean, I remember, my first two deals were less than a year apart, 2007 and then 2008, and I was planning on doing one per year. 2009 didn't pan out for me, but talk about the momentum. I lost my momentum and then didn't do another one until almost 10 years later.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really hard. It was almost like getting back in for the first time after I lost that momentum. But I think you're right. I think you hit that nail on the head is momentum really, really does matter in this game. So anyway, so let's talk about, how it progressed. You talked about, buying your first deal. You talked about, working at this investment firm. How did things progress from there?
yeah. After that, I was, already transactioning a lot in land, probably like buying 4 pieces of land a month. So I was like, what else can I do? When you do flips, you're just as good as your last flip.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't doing anything for the long term and it wasn't scalable. I knew I wanted to stay in real estate. I was sure about that. So I was just exploring what else can I do, fix
Mhm.
and flip, buy and hold, Airbnb, all these things that we can do. The more you explore, the more things you find. But I came across multifamily real estate, and that was when my third eye opened. Like, are you telling me that instead of owning a single family home, I can own the whole apartment building? I'm
Hmm.
like, sign me up. I really like the idea about scaling and just, doing it in teams because I knew I couldn't do this on my own. So I just started networking. That was the first step, first step I took. Just to start networking with people who were in the game, who were moving and shaking.
Yeah. Yeah, networking is huge, and I'll be honest, I kind of went through phases where, I thought information was more important than relationships. And I would go to like the RIAs and I would sit through the presentations and I would leave as soon as the presentations were over. But it took me a while to realize that the most important thing about those events, isn't whatever the person's saying up front, but the people there. And that was kind of like a game changer for me when I realized that network, find people who are doing this, find people you can partner with, find people you can learn from, and boom, that really changed the game for me.
It just fast tracks your goals. I can talk about that for hours, but like we have goals and we have our targets when it comes to multifamily. What do we want to achieve? But when we put ourselves in rooms where people are doing 10 times more what your goals are, it's mind blowing. It's like, I
Yeah.
never thought about that. Like you are living something that I can even imagine. So that accelerates and just opens your perspective of what's possible.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I mean, I walked out of some of those events. I remember there was one event I went to, and this was a multifamily specific event. It was in the DC area, which is where I lived at the time. And walking into that event, my plan was to buy like a 5 unit apartment, because that's about what I thought I could do. And I walked out of that event thinking, oh my gosh, I scrapped that, I'm going to buy a 5 unit apartment idea. And I think 6, 8 months later, I bought a 55 unit, and yeah, it was amazing for me. That unlocked something in my brain, just thinking, you know what? If these other guys here at this event can do it, I can do it too. And that's one of the powerful things about networking. So one of the things that that really clicked in my mind anyway. So
Absolutely.
so take us from there. How did everything else, progress for you? I mean, you start going to these networking events, start meeting people, start, getting into the apartments, and you said third eye open, and I like how you put that. I understand exactly what it meant, but where do things go from there?
Yeah, after that, I started connecting with everybody. I joined a mastermind. You gotta pay to play. You gotta pay to play, and you gotta invest in yourself first before anybody can invest in yourself. And especially if you're looking to attract partners, they want to see that you're committed and that you're serious on this. So that's the first thing that I did.
Yep.
Invest in myself in a mastermind and started connecting. I will talk to every single person in the room, and that's what led me to connect with one of the principals at Massive Capital, Mike Bailey. One relationship away from a completely different life. That's what I tell people because I'm living proof of that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm gonna throw out a big name, and I've only had like 3 conversations with this guy, Brandon Turner. I mean, most people know him from like the Bigger Pockets podcast hosts and whatnot. But I saw him at an event and he was like sitting through all the networking and everything else. And most of your keynote speakers, show up, give their speech, and leave. And he was the keynote speaker for this event. And I asked him the question, I'm like, okay, you're the keynote speaker, you're Brandon freaking Turner, what are you still doing here? Don't you have more important things? He basically said, I never know who I'm going to meet at these things. He's like, my current business partner, I met at something like this. And, we've done a lot of great things. He's like, I never know when I'm going to meet that next person. So when I come to these events, whether I'm headlining or just speaking, I'm at all the networking sessions. I mean, that was just kind of one of those things to me that I'm like, all right, that's awesome. He gets it. So, but yeah, just same lines, network, network, network. So you met the one of the principals at Massive. How long after meeting him did you join that team?
It was probably a couple months. I was committed and I told him straight up, I want to get in multifamily. the value that I can bring. I have a couple business degrees. My background is on sales. I mean, I don't know anything about a multifamily, but do you think I can add value to you? I think I can do investor relations because on my previous job, I was doing sales for real estate firm, and it was just talking with investors. So it's just different, but the same model, connecting, building relationships. And he said yes. It was kind of like a loop of fate for him, for me, for both of us, because we didn't really know how things were gonna unfold. And he closed on 4 deals when I met him in 1 month. So
Wow.
he was overwhelmed, and I just started, to me it was like I want to learn and I want to add value to him. I wasn't thinking like what's gonna be my equity, or I was just wanted to learn. And I just started like with basic stuff, organizing, hiring BAs, building a brand, putting systems, connecting with investors. So that's how I started.
Nice, nice, nice. Now, your investor relations right now. And so, one thing I definitely want to talk about is capital raising in this environment. A lot of people have talked about how difficult it has been. One person, I love this analogy, said, you're always either in a buyer's or a seller's market, no matter what you're doing. And he said, you can always raise money. It's just, right now we're more in a seller's market than a buyer's market when it comes to raising capital. But what has worked for you guys right now, and what are you guys looking to do in the near future on the capital raise front?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very open question and it's a lot. I'll try to be brief, but one of the things that we quickly realize is we need marketing, we need systems. You can talk to people 101, you can attend to all these events, but if you don't have a whole system, a whole CRM that is going to stay communicating with your investors all the time, like there's we have limited time. So that was the first thing. Like we always say, like we're a finance company first and then we're a marketing company for retail investors. And I mean, even for brief equity, we need to be on top of their mind all the time. We need to stay connected with them, like just like you said. Last year and this year it has been really hard to raise capital, but to me it was like last year and this is the year to just connect with them. Even if they are not gonna give you $1, just build the relationship, because there's so many people with money that are just looking at you, that are just sitting in the sidelines, trying to make a decision. And when you are building the relationship, they see that you are consistent, that you are doing deals, how are you doing deals, how your deals are performing, then they can trust you.
Yeah, and it's true. It's true. I mean, I do think this year there hasn't been a lot of deals out there, so it has been a great time to improve relationships with investors. A lot of investors have intentionally decided to stay on the sidelines. So it's been a time for creating new relationships and building new relationships more than
Mhm.
anything else. But, I mean, today it's September 18th today. We're going to air this in probably a week or two. So it'll be old news by the time that this airs. But the Fed lowered rates 50 basis points today. Do you think that's going to change anything?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think like I think is today is the first time in 4 years. I haven't even read the whole news, but it came on my inbox, and of course it's gonna change a lot for investors. Everybody has been waiting for this, so I think like we are facing the biggest opportunity in the market in multifamily, and this is a clear way to open the door.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've said this before on this podcast. I'll say it again. I think this rate cut today is like the first domino, 50 basis points, 0.5%. And when you really look at it, I don't think that's going to by itself, it's not going to do a whole lot. I've got a lot of fixed rate loans on the books. All right. It's not going to help me. I've got one variable rate loan, but we've got a floor. And this rate cut takes us below our floor. So it's not going to help me very much. So I'm starting to look at, what's the impact of 0.5% today on me? It's almost zero. But like I said, I think this is the first domino. And this is how I'm looking at it is domino number one is just fell down today. And it's going to knock it down domino number two. I don't know. I think it's going to be the best buying opportunity we've seen since probably 2010 timeframe. So Maybe.
Exactly. That's I was talking with somebody else yesterday on a podcast, and everybody keeps saying like 2008 it was when you had to buy, and if you didn't buy real estate, you miss out. But today is the second best part. Like we are facing the same time over again. So
Yeah.
yeah, we are in a really good position.
Mhm. So what's Massive Capital looking to do? Are you guys actively acquiring? Are you going to jump back in now because of the rates, or what are you guys looking to do?
We haven't stopped. In
Good.
the yeah,
Yeah.
in the last 2 years and a half, we already closed on 15 deals, mainly multifamily. We have properties in Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, and Denver. So the
Mhm.
first thing we're looking to expand in those markets. Also, last year we did a really good partnership with a new construction development company that they do retail centers mainly here
Mhm.
in Texas. So yeah, we're right now we're expanding on the new construction for retail. We have our second project with them as now, so super excited for that and scaling that.
Yeah, awesome. So, with that rate hike cycle and 15 new purchases, how's the portfolio done?
Yeah, great question. And two of our properties, two of our acquisitions that we bought at the beginning,
Mhm.
those are the ones that are, struggling a little bit with interest rates, insurance in Houston, and
Yeah.
everything that happened in the market. So we're navigating that. They are struggling, but we are in a good standing with those properties. I always tell people it's all about the asset management. It's all about the team who is managing. Because yeah, of course, nobody was counting on interest rates and
Right.
all the craziness that happened in the market. But when you have a solid team, I mean, we can turn around those assets. It has been hard, I can count victory yet until we sell those properties in 3 years more than we have left. But we're in a good standing. We're actually in the process of doing refi at the beginning of 2025 on both. It is what it is, but we are in good position overall.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, everybody knew rate hikes were coming, 3 years ago. I don't think anybody anticipated would get up to 5.5%. I don't think anybody anticipated that it would be 2.5 years before they started lowering rates. Yeah, I remember 2.5, 3 years ago thinking, yeah, rates will come up and they'll be back down by December. I think that's what everybody was saying. So, but yeah, glad to know that, overall you guys are doing well there. I know there was a lot of stress, with assets, especially with variable rate, or a bridge
Mhm.
loan, a lot of stressful times there. So, Jazmin, what's next for you?
I started a year and a half ago a nonprofit for women in real estate called She
Okay.
Builds, Owns, Invest. And the purpose of that nonprofit is just to help and support women in the industry in real estate. It can be intimidating for women, being around multifamily portfolios and transactioning to this level. But when we are building this community, it's just with the purpose of helping them.
Okay. Well, I love the idea. I mean, I noticed, the first multifamily event I went to was almost, I spent 20 years in the military. It reminded me of a military event where you show up and you got a bunch of guys, and maybe one or two women. But yeah, the first big real estate event that I went to was just like that. There's like two women and 200 men. I have to use my imagination here. I imagine it would be very intimidating, walking into a room like that where you're the only woman in the room and going on. How about this? Where can people get more information on She?
Yeah, they can visit our website, Massive Capital slash She.
Okay, awesome. So, ladies out there, check that out. I think any organization that's helping women get in, I think I'm a big fan of. I've got 4 daughters, so I would like to see that playing field leveled out, but especially for my little girls. But
Exactly. We always tell people it doesn't matter who your dad is, who your husband is gonna be.
mhm.
Just take control of your finance and start investing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the same opportunities are out there. It's just, it has been a very male dominated industry for a long, long time. And I'd be happy to see, things more evened out. I don't know if it'll ever get to 50-50, but I definitely don't want to walk into a conference area and see 99 guys and one gal, so to speak. But all right. So next question for you. If you had to give advice to somebody who is just starting out on their multifamily path, what would that advice be?
I mean, other than networking will be the first one, just connect, put yourself in the room. The second one will be invest in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can invest in you if you don't invest in yourself, in your knowledge, your skill set, so you can add value to people. Once you network and you find your people, you can show up with confidence and tell them, this is where I can add value to you. Instead of saying, how can I add value to you? You say, this is my skill set and this is how I can add value to you, and that will unlock a lot of doors for you.
I like that approach. Tell people what you can do. And here's something I've noticed over my life. I've had, dozens and dozens of people say, hey, this is what I can do for you. And, turn people away. But people that get me at the right moment, timing is crucial. I've had a lot of people that have given me the same pitch that I've gotten dozens of times before, but they hit me at the right time. And it's like, yes, I do need that right now. So yeah, I agree. Tell people what you can do, tell people how you can add value. And it is definitely a timing thing. So don't be discouraged if they say no, just keep on.
Yeah.
All
Every
right.
no is just getting you closer to the yes. So it's like, just keep
Absolutely.
going.
All right. And last question, how can listeners learn more about you?
Yeah, I mean, they can visit our webpage, Massive Capital. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Jazmin Salinas. So you can find me everywhere.
All right, sounds good. And we'll throw links to your social media profile in the show notes and to the Massive Capital website. We'll also specifically highlight the page that goes to the She program. What's the best way to call that?
She builds, owns, invests.
She builds, owns, invests. Okay, so we'll have a specific link to that in the show notes too. So anyway, Jazmin, thanks for coming on the show today. Very much appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure being with you, and thank you so much for everything.
Absolutely.